Okay, so I guess with no further ado, let's turn it over to Huw, who's going to walk us through GDST. Let's give him a nice round of applause, please.
So good afternoon. Yes, my name's Huw Thomas. I'm representing GDST. I'd just like to thank SAFET for giving me the opportunity to come to Bali, which I've never been to. I've come to Indonesia many times, and so a real honour to be able to come. What I'm going to talk to you today is about the business case for the adoption of the global dialogue on seafood traceability and the common language that it provides. GDST was formed in 2016 in terms of creating a dialogue to try and find some standardization in the terminology and the common language for traceability, because traceability traditionally has been food safety led, one up, one down, and it was a recognition that actually more information was needed about seafood supply chains than traditional food safety traceability systems would provide. And so GDST was set up as a dialogue partnership organisation to deliver those. This is just a top line on the mission and vision of GDST. I won't dwell on them too much for you, and I know that the slides will be made available to you later on. But really, it's about achieving a global movement of digital interoperable traceability, where data is captured and generated once, and then it can be shared to whomever you share it to. There's a lot of problems within seafood supply chains where brands, retailers, governments, customers, suppliers expect information to be presented in different ways, and we believe that with GDST you capture it and generate it once, and then through an interoperable system it can be shared and reported in as many different ways, formats and styles as you want, but it's the same information that comes through. So GDST was set up, its transition from being led by WWF and the Institute of Food Technologists in their Global Food Traceability Centre. It's now a charitable foundation set up in Holland, and it covers the full chain of wild capture and aquaculture traceability. At the moment, there's 42 key data elements within GDST, and I'll explain what those are in a minute or two. They are, in essence, a compromise on the basis that you have to start somewhere, and they're really that there's a need for additional key data elements to be collected through the supply chains. And so why is it important to adopt interoperable traceability? As it says here, there's been the need, and GDST is about the how, the what, and who. So the what information is needed to collect is the key data element. So what is the information I need to know about my seafood products? The who is the critical tracking event, which says who is responsible within the supply chain that should be collecting that data for me, whether it's a fisher, a farmer, whether it's a transporter or a broker. And then the what is the how is that key data element changed into a digital format so it can be passed seamlessly throughout different solutions and provisions. And so we're now on the GDST standard 1.2. The GDST standard was launched in February 2020. 1.2 was really just some spelling mistakes, and 1.1 was some spelling mistakes, and 1.2 is to make it fit for purpose in terms of the new computer language called JSON, and so it's recognizing, it's evolving as the movement moves forward. But GDST isn't an app, or it's not a traceability solution itself. It actually gives the structure and the framework for how data should be collected and how it should be changed. And so please don't think I'm trying to sell you a traceability solution, or I'm trying to sell you an app or an online system. I'm actually trying to sell you a standard that can be adopted and implemented, whether you're a hardware or a software business. And one of the things that I think it's important to put out is we're used to having common standards, whether it's refueling vehicles, whether it's Wi-Fi, so we can go anywhere in the world and get on the Wi-Fi, or on computers to be able to exchange information. It's a standard thing that we have in our lives already, and we're just trying to do the same thing with traceability information. And actually, GDST benefits the whole of the supply chain, or all of the people. And actually, it's developed for fishers, for farmers, for governments, for traders, for brokers, for retailers, for NGOs, you name it, if they take part in the seafood supply chain, there is a benefit to adoption of the GDST standard within there. In terms of architecture, one of the challenges is traditional traceability is point to point, so A gives it to B gives it to C gives it to D. There's cloud and computing where you agree what you want and you can put it up to a third-party provider who can provide it to you, or you can have blockchain. It doesn't matter. GDST is applicable for all. It doesn't matter what architecture you got. It doesn't matter what systems you use. All you have to do is use the key data elements and make sure that you have a system that's compatible so you can share data from one to the next. And GDST actually is just providing that framework, as I've said. And the biggest challenge most people have is access to a hardware or software. And the second thing is making sure that the key data elements are used at the right point in their supply chains. And so a lot of people have to spend a little bit of time just mapping their supply chains, deciding how far back they want visibility and transparency in their supply chains before they can implement them. And so, as I've said, GDST is agnostic. It doesn't favour one solution over another. As long as those systems are compatible and they use the key data elements, that's the main thing that's needed. The drivers of GDST as a standard, we see that there's assurance, there's responsibility, there's been all sorts of problems which I'll come on to in a minute, and we believe that GDST enables the transparency that people need to mitigate their risks, to report to their governments, whether it's catch certificates, import and export schemes. By having a common language, it allows everybody to use the same thing. It also allows data to be aggregated and to be searched and used for research in other areas, because often terms are mixed, which means then you don't get the right insight. And so GDST, with that common language, provides the opportunity for everybody. We're also seeing digital traceability being mandated. The European Union is making its catch documentation system and catch certificate system electronic. The Food Safety Modernisation Act of the US with the Seafood Import Monitoring Programme has mandated digital traceability. And so actually we're seeing digitisation in supply chains, we're seeing digitisation by governments. It's necessary, it provides that opportunity. And so we believe GDST is at the right time. And I've also put up here Canada, that there's Japan, Australia is modernising its systems. All over the world, we're seeing movements by governments to look at policies and adopt policies that have got form of digital traceability. And GDST is talking to those governments and the FAO and saying, why don't you adopt the key data elements? Why don't you adopt the interoperability so that actually it's seamless, it gives market access. We also think that overfishing, seafood fraud, illegality, slavery, you name it, we think that the transparency that adopting and implementing the GDST standard will provide supply chain owners and governments the opportunity to address some of these issues. And these are the benefits that we see. I'm not going to read the slide. I don't think that's what you want me to do. But actually, in terms of these are the opportunities, benefits, and value that we believe. GDST as a standard is free. It's available online. For the solution providers, all of the tools are available. We have a compatibility, a capability tool that checks whether solutions are capable of sending and receiving KDEs and GDST data. We've got a completeness tool for supply chain owners to map their supply chains and see how complete the data is being collected, as long as you've got a compatible traceability system and you've got steps in your supply chain. And we've got brands and retailers that are committed, global brands and retailers that are committed to have all of their supply chains back to vessel and farm level GDST implemented by 2030. So there's a movement coming forward. We're seeing a pull. So part of what I'm here to do is to socialise that GDST is a standard, that there's an opportunity to adopt it and implement it. And as you develop software, as you're putting in new hardware, even the existing software, ask, how can I take that information, change it into a GDST capable and compliant format so it can be shared? Because that will give you the market access, that will also take away technical barriers to trade. Planet Tracker came out with a report that said traceability will save a lot of money. They talked about a big dividend. Whether that figure is robust or not, I don't know, but they published it, and they talked to the financial institutions. And so the financial institutions are listening to digital interoperable traceability is important, and seafood supply chain should have it. Success depends on standardization and interoperability, which GDST has, and we believe everybody has an opportunity to get on board with it. And if you want to become a partner, the cheapest as a supply chain is $150, and the most is $3,000 a year. And the reason that we ask for some money is that we believe there's an ongoing dialogue that needs to happen. The GDST KDEs and standards were built at a time to really focus on our UU alone. But we know that there are parts of the industry that want labour and human rights, that want marine ingredients, that want social, that want aquatic animal welfare, KDE sets to be developed, to be put into the standard, and the opportunity is there. We've kicked off the dialogue process in Singapore in September. We've got another one in Cape Town at the end of this month, Boston Seafood Show, and again at the Barcelona Seafood Show. So please sign up. They're the hybrids. They're both in person and online. And so please come and have a conversation and decide what's the next steps for the GDST standard. So please engage in digital interoperable traceability. Develop any software and hardware that you have, or if you're buying anything new, make sure it's GDST compatible, and adopt the KDEs. The standard's online and they're free to use. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Huw. That was great. So yes, very important for most of you, I'm sure, who've worked on the ground, trying to work out what the fish catch looks like, how does it fit together and all the pieces. Here we now have a nice global standard where it can all systematically integrate. So thank you for that, Huw.